Yes, what we're hearing right now is that the High Court has granted bail to Union Minister's son, Ashish Mishra. He is Ajay Misra Teni's the son. MOS home Ashish Misra has been granted bail by the High Court. He, in fact, has been granted bail in the Lakhimpur Kheri violence case. My colleague Ashish Misra is now joining me live on this. Abhishek, give us more details. Finally, some relief for Ashish Mishra, who's been in jail since October last year.
Well, certainly, Pauline, it's a big breaking. Ashish Mishra has got the relief from the High Court getting this bail, and it is very important with the fact how this whole case went. And politically also, it took a lot of mileage in terms of the opposition accusing the government, and there has been a constant demand of the resignation of the Union Minister Ajay Misra Teni, but nothing like that happened, and this particular decision was kept preserved for 3 weeks, and today it came out and he has got the bail. It is very important for me with the fact how this whole investigation was underway under the SIT, and all those evidences which were recovered via the records and Ashish's own statement, but the bail which was much awaited has finally been given, and it looks like that Ashish Mishra has now some time to get out of the jail, and certainly with that decision it is again going to take a lot of political attention with the opposition who were keen on this particular case, raising questions, but the bail has been granted. Yes.
Right. Abhishek, anything that you're learning from the court in terms of observations that have been made in granting bail to Ashish Mishra? We do know that on previous occasions, the District and Sessions Court, for instance, rejected bail pleas.
Well, certainly, and since the investigation was underway, it was not the first attempt. Earlier also, Ashish Mishra tried to get the bail, but it was rejected on the grounds of the investigation, all those evidences, the record which the police have recovered, and he was not able to clarify his particular location at the time of the incident which happened in Tikunya. So all those things, but finally has got the bail, and as I'm telling you that politically it's going to take a lot of attention because the first phase of election is underway at the 58 seats in Western Uttar Pradesh, and with the opposition being very vocal about this whole issue. But technically he has got the bail, and now it remains to be seen what further course of action will be taken. But a big relief and a big breaking with the fact that how this whole case has taken a lot of attention throughout this political time. But Ashish Mishra has finally got that bail from the Allahabad High Court.
In fact, speaking of that political attention which this very specific case has in fact generated, is also because of the fact that Ashish Mishra, viewers, is the son of Union Minister of State for Home Affairs Ajay Misra Teni. There were calls from the opposition and a lot of pressure on the government, the central government, the BJP-led central government, to in fact sack Ajay Misra Teni because his son was found to be the main accused in the Lakhimpur violence case. Remember, on October 3rd, a vehicle mowed down protesting farmers in Lakhimpur Kheri. The vehicle, in fact, belonged to Ashish Mishra, and Ashish Mishra, who in fact avoided the police and the cops, he in fact eventually, because of the growing pressure, the spotlight on his father as well, eventually surrendered before the SIT, which is investigating the matter. Abhishek, for the benefit of our viewers, if you can give us a sense of the status of the case in terms of the investigation, which has been ongoing since October last year.
Well, absolutely, the SIT was made, and it was under the SIT, and also at the same time we have seen time and again the development which happened in this particular case. Police have been able to recover the call details as well, but the major point was not that Ashish Mishra was not able to produce the evidence about his presence at that particular spot, and which was something which was a major concern during the investigation also, and later on some of the sections was also increased, and it is very important for me. One way the investigation is going on, the case is on the trial, but politically, as we have time and again has been saying, because this whole case was surrounded around the Union Minister Ajay Misra Teni, and the opposition has been very vocal, from Priyanka Gandhi to Akhilesh Yadav and all those other leaders who went there, stood with the farmers' families, but no, since there had been no action by the BJP government, even of sacking up the union minister or any other adverse action. So that was something which was a major demand for the opposition side. But now after this bail, what course of action will be, that remains to be seen. But indeed a big relief for Ashish Misra in the way that how the investigation was moving further. And the Allahabad High Court, after 3 weeks, has now given this decision of giving him a bail when it was appealed in the court. Yes.
In fact, Abhishek, speaking of the pressure which was on the BJP-led state government as well as the central government after this case happened in October last year. In fact, there was pressure on the state government to act against those who were responsible for this alleged crime which took place on the ground in Lakhimpur. It was a crime that took place on the ground in Lakhimpur Kheri, where protesting farmers, in fact, lost their lives as well. And, of course, the alleged involvement of a union minister's son as well. The BJP, of course, their defense and their line of defense so far has been, we have been, in fact, following the protocol. The law has taken its course as far as this investigation is concerned, and we have done nothing to protect the accused in this case. In fact, there was a reference to this in the Prime Minister's interview yesterday as well to news agency ANI, where he basically stated that as far as the course of action is concerned, the law has taken its course and the Supreme Court has also taken cognizance of it, and the state government has followed all orders which have been given to it. Hasn't that been the line of the state government as well in defense of it, Abhishek?
Well, certainly, and Paulumi, this whole case, politically not only gave an agenda to the opposition, but the major question remained why there has not been any action against the union minister. And one thing which is also very important in the sense that BJP has kept Ajay Misra Teni out of the election campaign as well. He was not a star campaigner, he was not in the list, and also we have seen on occasions when there were some minor functions as well in Lakhimpur, be it of inauguration of any scheme or anything on the local level, he was always kept out. So the BJP government has always time and again said, the spokespersons have always defended the fact that the investigation is underway, the court is taking the course of action, and after which, we have reported continuously when there was a lot of questions about his arrest, when Ashish Mishra was, not there, and there were a lot of things which were asked about the BJP government, whether they do not intend to take any action against the minister's son. But when that arrest was made, a lot of interrogation happened, a full-page charge sheet was presented, and it looks like that, after this, again, the opposition will come to this point that after getting this bail and how, the course of action will be further. But a very clear thing that Ashish Mishra, he was very keen on getting that bail, had appealed earlier also. Court had reserved the order for 3 weeks, but now has got the bail from the Allahabad Lucknow bench. Yes.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the opposition's demand, Abhishek, to in fact sack Ajay Misra Teni in the Lakhimpur Kheri violence case because of the direct involvement of his son, who was in fact seen as the main accused. He was in fact being investigated as the main accused in this case. It was the farmers as well. After the Prime Minister announced the withdrawal of the contentious 3 farm laws, the other demands came forth. The farmers said, okay, we're withdrawing. We're going to go away from the Delhi borders now, but if certain demands are not met, including a guarantee for MSP, those are the demands that the farmers put forth. And one of the other critical demands was the sacking of Ajay Misra Teni, MOS Home Affairs. That was their demand. So it wasn't just the opposition, it was the protesting farmers as well who kept this issue alive, not just in Lakhimpur Kheri as well, but when they, of course, met the electorate going to pose in these elections as well, especially in Western Uttar Pradesh, where the impact of the farm laws was felt and the farmer agitation was most prominent. In this belt itself, the farmers in fact pointed to the fact that the BJP government is allegedly brazening it out by keeping Ajay Misra Teni in government. They might not be using him for campaigning purposes. He was not a star campaigner for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He was kept away from the spotlight for a while despite the fact that initially, Abhishek, of course, you and your colleagues reported on it, he was giving many interviews, in fact, claiming innocence on his son's behalf. But eventually, he had to go under the radar because the BJP thought the spotlight on it was going to be damaging for the party going into these elections. Sanjay Jha is now joining me on the phone line right now. Sanjay Jha, your comments. Ajay Misra Teni, the son of, I beg your pardon, Ashish Mishra, the son of Ajay Misra Teni, has been granted bail by the Allahabad High Court in the Lakhimpur Kheri violence case.
Well, I think first and foremost, the granting of a bail is not an acquittal. And I think the opposition has always said that as long as the Home Minister remains in his job, as in the Minister of State for Home, you can't really expect a very impartial and fair investigation. You see, the court has to only respond to what the prosecution really puts up there, right? And I think at the end of the day, I mean, this is a problem. The problem is that the investigating agencies, if they're compromised, I mean, the court has to only respond to the evidence submitted before it. And we all know that, the son of Mr. Mishra, Ashish Mishra, was frankly absconding for a long time. He came after a lot of duress and public and media pressure. And the Supreme Court is actually monitoring this case. I think this is far from over. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the critical questions remain unanswered, which is the very inflammatory speech made by the minister himself, where he said, he pointed a finger and he said, we can teach people a lesson. All those were factors that played into the violence that happened thereafter in Lakhimpur Kheri. And I'm very confident that the people in Western Uttar Pradesh who are voting today will completely reject the Bharatiya Janata Party because it truly has been an anti-farmer party to begin with.
Right, so you do believe that BJP, with keeping Ajay Misra Teni in his job so far, despite all the pressure, despite all the demands from not just the opposition parties, of course, they wouldn't listen to the opposition parties, but the protesting farmers as well, that who they claim to now, of course, understand here, listen to. The fact is that they're basically brazening it out by keeping him in his job still.
Absolutely. You see, we have to recognize one thing. I mean, what happened at Lakhimpur Kheri was perhaps one of the most horrendous manifestations of the kind of pathetic governance we have in India. I mean, you actually have it on record that they drove over the farmers, and that led to another retaliation of brutal violence. I mean, basically somebody has to be accountable for it. And I'm sure that when the final verdict is passed by the court, when actually the full case is really put up before it, and I hope that is done without any kind of prejudice on the part of the investigating agencies, there is no way that politicians from the BJP can get away with it. They are responsible. We all know that they call the farmers Khalistanis and separatists and terrorists and so on, and they always thought it was politically motivated, which is wrong. The farmers were in fact protesting for why they felt an injustice was be done. I mean, that's the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to withdraw the 3 farm laws.
Right, Sanjay Jha, but the BJP's line of defense so far has been, of course, they're not going to, like I reiterate, they're not going to act under any kind of pressure from the opposition, to say the least. But the fact is, their line of defense so far, in response to the demands calling for the resignation of Ajay Misra Teni, has been that they are following the due course of law. There's nothing that they have to hide. They're not protecting anybody at the moment. In fact, just hold your thought over there because you have made a few points. Anila Singh of the Bharatiya Janata Party is now joining me. Miss Anila Singh, Ashish Misra Teni has been granted bail by the Allahabad High Court right now after 4 months of being in custody. But what your critics still say is that until Ajay Misra Teni still has his job, continues to be a member of the Union Council of Ministers, there cannot be any sort of fair investigation.
Sometimes I really pity opposition. They do not have anything concrete to say, or intentionally they try to make fool of themselves. Like if he has been given bail, then the question should be asked from High Court, Honorable High Court, that why the court has given him bail. Do you think that the High Court is going to work according to the political parties? High Court or any of the court, They work according to the legalities.
Not specifically about Ashish Mishra. Of course, the law is following its course over there. Bail pleas have been rejected in the past by the District and Sessions Court. Today, the Allahabad High Court has granted him bail. But what your critics are saying is that until his father continues to be in government, how can you expect a fair trial?
See, our political party is not to be
A fair
governed by
investigation.
the opposition. So they are not going to tell us that who has to be the minister and who has not to be the minister. We are doing what we feel is correct. And father cannot be accused or to be blamed because something which his son or daughter has done.
Okay, so you're not going to be told by the opposition what needs to be done, who stays in government or not. Ashish Misra Teni, of course, has been granted bail by the Allahabad High Court. Relief for him, but how is the investigation going to proceed? Henceforth, that, of course, remains to be seen. The opposition, of course, saying until his father stays in government, how can you expect a fair investigation in this matter? So they're going to continue to build that kind of pressure on the state government and, of course, the central government of the Bharatiya Janata Party as well. Sanjay Jha, Anila Singh and Abhishek Mishra, thank you so much for joining us. That's all that we have for you in this broadcast that we are bringing to you live from Mathura. Stay tuned to India Today News and Updates. We'll continue on the other side of this very short break.